Podcast 38. You're getting ready for a bear hunt.
Podcast 38. This is pre-bear hunt.
Pre-bear hunt. You leave Sunday
Pre-bear
night.
hunt. Yeah, I'm gonna leave Sunday night late.
Today is Wednesday.
Yeah.
So you leave Sunday
Mm-hmm.
and you'll be gone for 4 days
Yeah, I'm gonna be off work 4 days.
and you'll be
Hmm.
slinging arrows at bears.
This is a rifle hunt.
Oh, a rifle hunt. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, they have a rifle hunt up there because it's early, the early season. It's so far up there that I'm assuming New York figures that the bears will start heading to den up early.
Well, you got more of a chance now with a rifle.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
So I want to touch a little bit on my last 4 days because I spent the last 4 days bow hunting Maryland public land.
Yeah.
I had some highs and some lows, but I also want to talk about just public land in general. And before I start, I want to let everybody know that hunts public land. I'm not bashing you because it is public land. Everybody can do what they want, but I'm just going to state a few things of my opinions on some things that I've seen over the last 4 days. So I don't want to make anybody mad. This is literally just my observations and my opinions and what I wish maybe the states would change the rules a little bit. So we headed down Thursday night and we got a hotel. And I always hunt Maryland Opener. First thing was it was about 99 degrees.
Oh my.
It was brutal deer hunting. We hunted Friday morning was opening day. I went back into a bigger piece of the timber. It was right on the inside of a inside corner. Had a ditch that went through. Had a lot of deer activity right there. And the field, the corner was all corn and everything. So I get in there nice and early and had a 4 pointer go by early in the morning. Then I saw a doe out in the distance. Well, about 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm sitting there and I hear something behind me. So I'm like, all right, maybe it's a deer. So I turn around real slow. Here comes this guy, right? And it wasn't like, a normal situation where the guy maybe was walking into a stand or maybe he was walking out. This guy had his compound bow and he was trying to stalk through the woods
Hmm.
in open timber on leaves. It hasn't rained in a month. I heard him a mile away coming. And he's walking. And if you're watching the video, the guy obviously listeners can't see, but he's walking through the woods real slow, I guess.
Like Elmer Fudd.
Yeah, literally like Elmer Fudd at 8 o'clock in the morning, and like he's trying to stalk a deer on dry leaves. It hasn't rained in a month at 8 o'clock in the morning. So he's like walking through the wood, like looking around like this. I was like, "Hey, bud." He's like, "Oh, oh." He's like, and he waved, and he went the other way. That that was irritating. So I stayed till about 9:30. It was so hot, no wind, dry. We got out. Afternoon hunt. Uh, I set up on this little hillside. It was all surrounded by beans. I had a ditch that went through again, and I was overlooking this swamp. And I was trying to catch a trail where the deer were skirting the swamp edge. So got set up. It was so hot, man. Heat index was over 100, and we got set up. And I'm sitting there. About 30 minutes later, here comes this guy walking down the edge. I was like, all right, whatever. He's walking to a stand to try to find a spot or something. So next thing you know, I hear kids running, like kids screaming and hollering, right? So I'm sitting there. Here comes these kids, and they're just running around the bean field. It's public land,
What
you
the
got
flip?
hikers, you got hikers, you got do what you want. I'm like, God, I was like, I'm just trying,
Can't catch a break.
just let me bow hunt here for one day. So I didn't see nothing that afternoon. Saturday morning rolls around, right? Where did I hunt Saturday morning? Uh, Okay. Saturday morning got set up and I saw a 6 pointer, no person. Saturday night, I got set up and had a buck, decent buck, and he was actually bedded into the cattails.
Mm.
I watched him for about an hour. He gets up, moves about 10 yards, beds back down, and he just stayed there until dark. He just stayed there. So I got down and then we left. Can't hunt Sundays in Maryland. So I actually hunted Monday. Went down Monday morning, got set up again, and I had two guys walk through the woods at 7:45 in the morning. Just randomly walking through the woods with a bow and two bows, and just randomly walking through. I'm like, okay. So then this guy I saw in the bean field, and you're probably talking 40, 50-acre bean field. I mean, the fields are huge. And he has a recurve bow, and could see him about 100 yards away, and he's walking through the
Mhm.
bean field, I guess, trying to stalk. I'm like, okay, this is wild. So hunted Monday night, and I hunted this another inside corner. I was in some pines overlooking some beans, and had two guys again, two different guys just randomly walking through the woods. I ended up seeing a doe came up downwind of me or whatever. She just kept on going, and then I saw a shooter buck in the distance that evening. But that was my hunt for 4 days in 100-degree weather. My complaint, my complaint about this is it's not really. It's just I'm just venting, but it should be a rule or a law that you are not allowed to walk around. Like you should have to walk to your tree stand, pick a tree, climb it, sit, and hunt. That's it.
No stalking.
No stalking. Like I understand stalking is allowed. You're allowed to do that. Now, but on public land, when you could take 20 people, and out of that 20 people, you're going to have one person that wants to stalk. Well, that one person is going to ruin 5 to 10 people's hunt,
At
depending
least.
on the size. You know what I mean? Depending on the size of the
Yeah.
property. So, to me, it shouldn't be it's just it's just my opinion, and not that it'll ever change. I have no influence on it changing, but
Yeah.
um it shouldn't. You're ruining everybody's hunt. Well, then the first person's response is, oh well, something might get up and you might push it to that person. Well, yeah, you could, but the chances of that happening are not good, and you're just boogering the whole place up. You're pushing the deer around, you're spooking them. The deer down there are on edge as it is because there's so many people, and to me, it just shouldn't be allowed. You should have to walk to your tree stand and climb your tree and be done. Sit there till dark, or if you shoot something, but walking through the wide open timber at 8 o'clock in the morning trying to stalk something and on dry
Crazy.
leaves
Crazy.
is wild.
I have never been successful with that, I guess you could say.
I've
Well, for
never
one,
tried.
I really never tried, but I mean, how many times have well, like I will stalk to my tree stand when I'm going
Mhm.
in, be aware of your surroundings just in case, but like I've never not that I can remember, have ever
Yeah.
walked up on something and got a shot with a bow.
Well, what they're
I've done it.
doing,
I've done it with the gun.
yeah. Well, what these guys are doing is all these deer are bedded in the cattails. So what they're
Mm,
doing is they're trying to push out the cattails
yeah.
and to try to jump something up. But dude, you how many? You're not going to kill none. You're going to spook a deer and it's going to run 100 mile an hour, and you're not going to be able to shoot it with a bow unless you 100% sneak up on it, which you're not going to do because it's just I don't know, whatever. Like I said, people can do what they want, but just keep in mind you have one guy that wants to stalk, and you're ruining five to
Yeah.
ten people's hunt.
Yeah, and
That's
if you're on a paid hunt or somewhere
right.
where you've traveled to go,
Yeah,
that could make some tense moments.
it can for sure.
You know,
It is, it's public. It is what it is. You got to
because I
expect.
mean, look at me for example. I don't. Finally this year, I'm going to get to go somewhere out of
Mm,
state and go do something. Hunt another state, and if I go with these guys and they're walking around or something, I'm probably going to be upset
yeah.
because I don't know these guys.
Hmm.
And if they do some really weird stuff, yeah, I'll probably get upset because I don't know when I might get the chance to do this again.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to stalk out in the
S-
Dakotas somewhere in the wide open,
Stalk your own state,
yeah,
Dave.
stalk on private land or something, public land, you're ruining people's hunt.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know.
go, go
That's just
stalking when you're like jumping ducks or something,
right. That's just my opinion.
goose or duck.
Um, Crazy story though. I did meet this older guy that was in the parking lot.
Hmm.
He's mainly a bird hunter,
Okay.
but it kind of relates to this. But he was telling me that last year he's a local. He lives close by there, and every morning he's retired. Every morning he comes to the park there, and he walks his dogs. Well,
Oh,
you're allowed to do that.
okay.
So, but he doesn't walk the trails through the woods when it's deer season. He just walks the roads.
Hmm.
Well, there's this one road that cuts back all about a mile long, and you can hunt all back in there too. This guy, he said it was last November during a rut, and he was walking down the road, and off to the left, in on the field edge, you had to go through the field, and then you got the woods edge. You're right there. There's a guy up there bow hunting.
Hmm.
So this guy just stayed on the trail with his two dogs, or stayed on the road on his two dogs, and this guy bow hunting was about to draw back on the biggest buck of his life. He said
Oh my.
the dogs or the person spooked the deer, and the guy didn't get to shoot him. He said the bow hunter got out of the tree, ran across the field, and lunged at the guy. Lunged at
Wow.
him, and the old man was like, "You lunge at me one more time, we're gonna have a serious problem here." And he said the guy wouldn't stop. He was so mad that this guy ruined his deer hunt and said he was about to shoot the biggest buck of his life. So the old man had to call the ranger, and the
Huh.
ranger came out and had to explain to this hunter. He's like, "Dude, you're on public land. Like, you got to expect things like this." He's
Right.
like, "The guy was on the road from you, a
He was
hundred,
doing everything
yeah,
correct
200 yards away from you.
and
It's not
legal.
his, and legal. It's not his fault that you're the buck spooked.
Right.
So it's just the way it goes."
Yeah. Yeah. You can expect the unexpected when you get into that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I
So.
told you guys, well, maybe I didn't say it on the video, but I told Dave that when I pulled my camera cards last time, they were only soaking for about 2 weeks, and I had 4 people on my cameras,
Hmm.
all different days.
Yeah.
And there was an incident. It was a local break-in,
Mm.
and the guy got ended up getting caught. But I think I actually have the suspect on my camera. Believe it
Oh
or
boy.
not. Yeah,
Oh boy.
yeah. I'm pretty sure it was him. So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Definitely.
was that was pretty neat. Yeah, the guy broke in somewhere and
Mm.
he was stealing stuff from local camps and things, and
Yeah. It's always something.
yeah, he ended up getting caught though.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got like 2 or 3 pictures of him.
Crazy.
Yep.
Um, let's jump in the second part of this,
Yeah,
and we had a question come in from what was his name? Danny.
Danny. Yep.
So Danny messaged us, you know, some on Instagram and stuff, and he's a podcast listener, and he wants us to discuss the most overlooked part of land management. And it was actually his title. So if he's listening, that was his idea. But
Yeah. Props to
um,
Danny.
our last episode, we briefly discussed. We kind of got off topic, but we discussed natural browse and how it's
Hmm.
overlooked and stuff. So
Yeah.
he even said, what we said is that his mind always goes to food plots. He doesn't think of anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he wants to know, how do you get more browse? What are some browse that deer eat? Um, and how we can get more of it. Obviously, it's got to be private land where you're able to cut trees and stuff. But
Yeah.
that's but you can look for it. You can look for it on public land, certain areas
Hmm.
like clear cuts or select cut areas or something. But if you this is mainly for private land owners. How do we get more natural browse?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, like you said, if you own a chunk of land, you could find an area that's boogered up with a bunch of non-desirable trees. You can cut a bunch of them down for firewood or do whatever you'd like with it. But
Hmm.
get that get those down and get the sunlight to the ground and get some regeneration.
Yeah.
And that is your quickest, fastest way to get some browse going in your
Well,
area.
you said the magic word, sunlight. You got to have
Yeah,
sun.
gotta have that for sure. You could propagate some stuff. Um, I mean, there's some of those celebrity guys out there, and they push red osier and dogwoods and things, and
Hmm.
you can actually propagate some stuff. Um, you could go to your local Lowe's or whatever. At the end of season, they sell all these fruit trees and all kind of stuff at a discounted price. You can go haul in a bunch of woody browse right there.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, there's lots of ways of doing it.
Yeah.
Some overgrown stuff, like you were saying. Uh, I mean, if I don't mow, of all things, like over there at Destination Plot, like if I don't mow that field for a season, when I come back the next year and start to mow, there is uh little of oh, what's the word? Little thorny bushes. I can't remember the name of it. Hmm. But anyhow, yeah, like briar bushes and stuff already starting to pop up, and they're like a
Hmm.
foot tall. Because last year I mowed strips over there because fuel was so expensive and stuff. But yeah, I mowed some strips, and I guess that opened up, got some sunlight to the ground, and then I let it grow all year. And then this summer I went back and mowed some strips the other way, you know, and there was already these briar bushes and stuff starting to grow just in one season like that.
Yeah.
And all the tops were all nipped off. The deer
Hmm.
the deer were finding that and chewing them right off.
Yeah. Let's so in this we have hard mass, woody browse,
Right.
and then we have soft, which would be like forbs and bushes and things like that. The
Hmm.
leaf, green, anything green. But like when I do consulting on people's properties, what I look for is I'll try to find an area that makes sense depending how the property lays. But if they have an area where maybe deer are bedding or something, we can take an area and have a little select cut, some cuttings or something to have an area where we can get some regrowth and regeneration.
Hmm.
And the main part of that is, like you said, getting the sun to the ground. So therefore, we get the green growth coming up. But then in a couple years, because the woody browse takes a little bit longer than the green growth, but the woody browse will start coming up as well. And whether it's flush cutting trees, maples, hinge cutting a little bit, you get the stump sprouts and everything. That's all woody browse that deer, consume on a daily basis. They will eat it some in the, spring and summer, but
Hmm.
they naturally transition to that in the wintertime because all your green foliage dies off. So then all they're left with is some, leftover acorns and
Yeah.
woody browse, greenbrier, um, things like that. But that's kind of how I like to set things up, um, in that. And like I said, you'll get the green first, but it's
Hmm.
all about having sunlight. You got to have the sunlight to hit the
Yeah, for
floor.
sure.
So you'll get the green coming up, and then you'll get the woody browse in the following year or 2 years or so. Um, but that's what deer transition to, and a lot of people, a good evaluation you could do on your property is, it obviously is going to vary because each situation's different, but look at for browse in your area. Is it because, are you limited because you don't have no sunlight, or do you have sunlight and everything's, lip high off the ground? Well, if you have that sunlight and you're getting regeneration, but it's just eating down to the ground, you have too many deer. Yeah, you have too many deer that's tearing it down to the ground, and therefore you have to look at some situations around your
Right.
area. If there's just too many deer in general, or all the deer kind of wintering on your property because there's nothing nowhere else. Do you need more food plots? Do you have to kill some deer? um, so there's a lot of, you can do trail camera surveys. Just look how the deer appearance wise, the rib showing, then they need more food. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, but that's some ways that you can, get it. You can get a logging company. If you have a big enough property where you have to get logging, clear cut, select cuts, they can come in, take the logs. Um, you'll really get a lot of regrowth that way. So there's a lot of different things you can do, and look at and survey and all that stuff.
Well, even when people are creating bedding, if they will, or doing TSI work,
Hmm.
if they're going to do these hinge cuts and things, a lot of times those trees, when they lay over, they will get those sprouts on top of the trunk that'll
Hmm.
start reaching for the sun.
Hmm.
And as long as you didn't do a waist high or head high, chest high cut, if you cut it low and hinged it,
Yeah.
and it's reachable for the deer to get those sprouts,
Hmm.
they'll clean them up too. But you said something I liked, and it's something I try to do sometimes, is the like cutting the maples. If you got some junk maples you want to get rid of, and you cut them around March time when the sap's coming on, and boy, when that starts to those sprouts that come back around a maple stump are just so nutritious because that root system is pumping
Hmm.
all that nutrition up to the stump, and them sprouts come up, and man, will they flock to that.
Yeah, the silver maples don't really hinge that well. They'll snap a lot of times, so I haven't had a whole lot of luck hinge cutting
Yeah,
them.
maples is hard to hinge,
But,
but
you have,
those are flush cuts I'm talking about,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
them
yeah.
got.
Other maples, they hinge a lot better. Like I did a lot of hinge cutting up on that ridge top at my farm, two I guess be almost 2 winters ago now, and it really regrew with maples and um, all that stuff. The deer just hammer all the leaves
Mhm.
that's coming off and all that. And but I will say a disclaimer: anybody that's getting into this, and say you do like a big TSI cut, or you have a timber company come in 3, 4, 5 years, you're gonna have a jungle.
Yeah,
You're literally gonna have a jungle, and it's got to be maintained. So be careful what you wish for, because depending how much sunlight you open up is will determine how much regrowth you get. And if you have a lot of regrowth, it turns into a
it,
jungle.
it's hard to transition to hunt that, if you're not used to hunting something that thick.
Yeah, well, to get too thick, the deer just avoid it. They can't
Yeah,
move
or
through.
they just don't move.
Yeah,
They go in and don't come out, and
right.
you get frustrated, and you think that you did something wrong. All you did
Hmm.
is probably created a bedroom.
Yeah, I mean, it'll
You
take,
know?
a good 4, 5, 6, 7 years before it gets to that point. But just people listening, just know that you're opening up,
Yeah,
a can of worms when you
have
start.
have a brand new brush hog sitting there.
Right.
It makes some trails or paths.
Have a 5, 6 year plan, 7, 8 year plan with it, where you can rent a forestry mulcher, start over, do sections of it or whatever. But
Yeah, controlled
just,
burn, if you're allowed to do that in
yeah,
your state. You
yeah,
could do
just,
controlled burn and burn off all the duff and everything, all the garbage off the top, and that alone just creates a lot of a release of natural seed bank. You know,
yeah, you'll get a huge flush of green and then the
Hmm.
fire, will set back the woody browse situation. Um, so that's a good point. If people are able to do that, you'll set back your woody browse a couple years, and then you'll get the green growth. Um, I guess we could also say too, where if you're living in the northern states where you have hard winters and snow and things, you need food above ground, and that's where actual woody browse comes into play. You
Yeah,
need
for sure.
you need to focus on that, so that way you have that woody browse during the deer season. The further south you go, then yeah, you don't need as much woody browse. You can focus on fires and green, you know forbs and things. Um, so there's a big difference between the north and the south.
Yeah, this craze of the food plots in the last 15, 20 years has really come on hard.
Hmm.
And people don't know how to hunt unless they are over a food plot,
Yeah.
anymore, it seems like. And people get hung up on that. They think they got to plant them food. Those deer don't need our food. They've been living for a couple thousand years without our food.
Hmm. It
It's
helps.
definitely. I mean, it's attractability, and you can
Supplemental.
funnel them into some place.
Hmm.
I mean, it definitely will help you
Yeah.
have a plan to hunt, but
Hmm.
you should expand your horizons too and be able to hunt a wide open chunk of land somewhere and still be able to see some deer.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. Yeah. You just think of wildlife, nature. Let it. You got it. The food's got to be there, and always remember, food plots are supplemental.
Yep.
They're
It,
something that we add to a habitat management program. It's not
yep.
something that you should uh, rely on 100% to feed the deer herd, because it's just not going to happen.
Yep. And I think Danny hit it on the nail on the head when he said the most overlooked part of the whitetail management being browse.
Yeah, it
Because
is
there's people.
because.
How many people have ever that have commented or texted and said, "What is browse? What do you mean? What
Hmm.
is browse? We don't know what you. We don't understand."
Right.
And then when you tell them it's woody vegetation or whatever, it's like, "Oh
Hmm.
yeah, okay, now I know what you mean."
Yeah.
But
Well,
a lot of
we
people do overlook it. They just that's not something that they manage.
right. Well, I touched on it last episode. Is when I go to clients and stuff, it's the first thing is, where do we put a food plot? Where do we put a food plot?
Yeah, right.
I'm like, hold on, dude. We'll
Yeah,
get there. We'll
let me
get there.
give me a stand and location and a
Right.
plot.
Just let's figure the situation out here. Let's
I
drive around your
still
property.
I still refer to that
Yeah.
client we had, Casey, and he said the Amish totally came in and cut that hillside out and it all regenerated in Greenbrier. And he was all dejected when we got there. He said, "Look at this garbage. They cut down all the trees. We got all this Greenbrier." And I was like, what are you talking about? Look at you.
Nah.
People would kill to have that.
Yeah, it's good
He
stuff.
didn't realize what he had.
Hmm.
But yeah, all those thorns and berries and, you know, all that, all that stuff. Barberry for the turkeys.
Yeah, I mean, you get ragweed growing. Deer love ragweed,
Oh,
goldenrod.
yeah.
Yeah, that's all your broadleaves and stuff. But um, it's good to have in the spring and summer. So you got to have a balance, but you got to have the woody browse. So you got to, get a company in there to cut, or hire a land consultant to cut, whatever you got to do. But it's a very important part of your program on your property.
Yeah, because and I don't know if there's any newbies listening, but they're like, "Well, so why is it so important?" Well, let's stress it. It is so important because when you get a snowpack or whatever, and the deer can't dig down,
Hmm.
deer they transition to woody browse when it gets that cold and nasty out. They're not going to exert a lot of energy digging for some little bulb out there in the middle of a field under a foot of snow.
Hmm.
They're just going to walk around. They're going to nibble on all the buds and twigs and,
I,
greenbrier and anything they can find above the snowpack.
I seen deer eat bark at the old farm.
Bark.
bark off a tree, ate it,
Mm.
starving. They were eating
Well,
pine. They were eating pine needles.
I told you, and I have a video to prove it. We always used to say deer don't eat ferns.
Yeah.
Well, I had a video last year when I was down here on my own property, and they weren't eating the fern. This buck came and he ripped the fern out of the ground, and he flipped that around in his lips until he had it upside down, and he was eating the white root system off of a fern.
He needed something.
He needed something from that, and I never knew, because I always used to say, your deer are starving if they're eating ferns. I used to say it. I'm guilty. And I still have a, if they're eating bark, pine needles, and ferns, there is an issue.
Yeah.
But this deer, for some reason, he was walking through there and he was munching. He was yanking. He was literally like putting his face down to the ground as low as he could get and plucking them things up, and then moving it around in his lips until he had the green was hanging down, and he had the roots, and he was just munching on them roots, and then he would just bite down and the green would fall off.
Hmm. He needed some mineral or something out of there.
Yep,
He knew where to find it.
yep.
Whatever they produce or something.
Yeah, he stood there and ate that for a while. He was just picking around. Now it's kind of a wet spot, so who knows? Maybe there was a natural spring there or something with minerals or whatnot.
Hmm.
And he found something good. He liked it. Yep,
Awesome.
it
Well,
blew my mind.
yeah. Danny, thanks for your question. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna get back to hunting here in the next 2 days. And you're going on a bear hunt, so
Yep. Next time they see me,
yeah,
hopefully I have some bear meat in the freezer.
yeah, yeah,
We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
yeah.
Meet some new people, camp out primitive type, tents and all.
Awesome.
And hopefully it doesn't rain a whole lot,
Yeah,
because I did look at the weather and it said like 50% chance each day.
yeah. You could be like me, where you get caught in a torrential downpour.
Oh, that was terrible.
That was rough.
I seen your videos. That was
Yeah,
bad.
that was rough.
Yep. So I'm going to try to prepare for some wet stuff.
Yes, definitely.
It's a shame. It's unfortunate.
All right.
Okay.
Podcast 38 wrapped up.
All
Hope
done,
that
folks.
hope that answers Danny's question and anybody else that needed more information.
Yep. If you need more information on anything, get a hold of us, one of us, and we have many different platforms that we operate off of. And ask a question, and maybe we'll answer it just like we did Danny's today. Thanks, Danny.
Sounds
See
good.
you folks all later.
Later.
See you. All right, Steve's blowing me up here from work. What's going on?